I'm getting ready to weld a ring on the back side of my sign here, and this is 14 gauge material, and I think the machine for the weld is going to be the little MiG, which is currently set up with flux core. I'd like to use the MiG portion of it. We'll put some gas to it. 14 gauge is pretty light, and the flux core is real messy and it burns a little hotter, so I think the MiG would be a better choice. This MiG has, right now it's got 35,000 flux core in it, and I've got to get that out of there. To change from flux core to MiG requires 4 things. You've got to change your wire out from flux core to solid, of course. You've got to change your drive roller from knurled to smooth. You've got to change your polarity from electrode negative to electrode positive, which is just reversing these wires right here. And you've got to install your gas in the back. And there's 2 types of gases you can use for that. It's 75-25, argon 75%, 25% CO2, or just straight CO2, which is a little bit cheaper, but it's a little bit more messy and it runs hotter as well. So what I've got is 75-25. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the tension from the drive roller by opening that up. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take off the nozzle. I've got a flux core nozzle on here, and then I've got a tip. Okay, once we have the tip and the nozzle off and the tension off the drive roller, I roll this out. There's no sense in wasting all that wire. So I take and just roll it back onto the spool. I've got one finger on the wire as I turn it so that when it comes out, it won't unwind off the spool. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to put it right into a hole of the spool. This flux core, you got to be careful. If you bend it, you'll break it. Just like I just did. Still attached. Okay. So on the Lincoln, we just push in this little lever and pull it out. Okay. This is 10 pounds, 35 thousandths inner shield, Lincoln electric wire. That number is 211 MP. Okay, the solid wire is a Lincoln product, and that is the Super Arc L56. And this comes in a 12.5 pound spool. And they've got the Super Arc L56 labeled up here on our directions. So you've got to get the wire direction correct. Some are fed from the bottom, like my snap-on, and some are fed on the top, like this one here. Here we go. Our little lever is slipped over the spool. I'm going to take this roller out. So one roller is knurled, that's for my flux core. The other roller is smooth. We've got, it says 0.025 and 0.035. Okay, one thing about this, it says 035 on this side, so the inside's gonna be 035. So we're gonna feed this through. It just started to go in. Okay, we've got that started. I can put down my roller and I can tension this a little bit. It says in here, flux cord wires 1 to 3, solid wires 3 to 5 on the tension. So we'll bring this down just over 3. Okay, I'm going to turn the machine on. Put my retainer nut on. Grab the stinger. And for this, you don't want to have the stinger rolled up. Kind of maybe a large sweep, just so you don't have any resistance with that wire going through. So it's going to pull it through when I hit the trigger. Okay, there it is. Now this is 30 thousandths wire, so I'm gonna go for a 30 thousandths tip. You could get away with using a 35 thousandths tip, and it would work well just fine. A lot of times guys in the field will do that. They'll go a size larger. Some nozzles push on, some nozzles thread on. This one threads on. So then I'll cut the wire off at the front of the nozzle. Okay. So we've got our smooth roller in, we've got a retainer on, we've got our new wire. Now the next thing's going to be changing the polarity. I do not believe this machine ever has welded with gas. I think this is the first time, because when I got it second hand, and it had a little bit of flux core in it. So that's what they were welding. Let me bring this around so I've got enough slack. This one we'll just put over here. This one right there. Make sure they're tucked away enough to where you're not going to get in the way of your wire. Keep everything neat. The contacts don't look burnt or arced. Tighten up here. Okay, that should be everything in the box. Now I can turn this off. The next thing I'll hook up is the gas. Okay, the gas line is going to go right in the back of the machine, of this machine, and There's no need for thread tape because it is a tapered fitting, brass fitting in there that seals. You're just going to make sure that thing's very tight. Now you don't want to break anything, and you don't want no jerking. You just want to give her a little juice. So that's tight. Now I'm going to turn on the gas and we're going to check all this stuff. Okay, so 75-25. This one here is argon. So you're going to open it up. One's going to give you your tank pressure. This is what you've got left in the tank. Usually they're about 2,000 when you get them new. So this is about halfway. You open these valves all the way up, or else they'll leak a little bit. So it's seals on the back side. This other gauge here is your CFM, and Lincoln's recommended 30 to 40. That's a little bit rich for me. What I do is I'll go around 20. So when I get the machine turned on and stuff, I'll hit the trigger. We'll see where the needle goes while it's under load. So I've got pressure on that line. And what I'll do is I'll take a little Windex, a little soapy water. I'm going to put it on that. And if there's a leak, you're going to see bubbles. This one here, I just give it a spray everywhere, off the bottle, the valve. And I see nothing. That looks good. Bit of gas in the back side of that or something. I'll call that good. Next thing I'm going to do is set the machine up, and I've already adjusted it, but under the hood of all these machines, they'll give a recommendation of your wire speed and your voltage. So these guys have their chart there. 14 gauge is what I'm going to be welding it with a 30 thousandths right there. 30 thousandths. We go down to 14. 3.5 for my wire speed, and C for the heat. And I've already set that there. So we're 3.5 and C. So that should be good to go for wire gauge. So when I fire that up on some 14 gauge, I'll do some testing before I actually run on my sign, but I'll adjust it from there. But that's a good place to start. Okay, this is very similar to the welding I'm going to be doing on the sign. These are both pieces of 14 gauge that were actually cut out of the sign. We'll see how that heat goes, if I need to adjust it. So we'll give this a go. I see nothing wrong with that. I've got good penetration. I'm sealed. I'm going to bring it back down to 3.5. That's 3.5. That's 3 3/4. Because it is, you can tell it's running a little bit hotter on the 3 3/4.